Welcome back to West Texas View.
We're completing our three-part series about the WASP with this segment, and it has been such a pleasure to have Carol Cain here. She is so knowledgeable and so enthusiastic about this place that you really, really must visit. And I want you to talk about some closing things that you want them to know.
Well, the beauty of our museum is that it is not a static museum. It is, you walk in the door and you not only feel the presence of these very wonderfully accomplished women, but it's a living museum. We have two airplanes, a Stearman PT-17 and a PT-19. Both of these airplanes are airworthy. They fly almost every weekend. There is a group of volunteers in the Northeast that will deliver to us in about a year a totally restored and airworthy BT-13. And that will give us 3 planes that actually fly that are on exhibit in our museum. For a museum our size, that is absolutely
And to have
wonderful.
an airworthy one is absolutely
Exactly.
fabulous.
And they fly almost every weekend. We also we want our museum to not only serve the WASP, the memory of the WASP, and to educate people about the WASP program, but we want it to serve our community. It's wonderful. It's a beautiful facility. We have had, in the last 3 or 4 months, we've had a wedding shower. We've had an engagement party. We've had a cocktail party.
And dances.
We have had dances. And we're going to have a homecoming celebration in September for all of the classes that have graduated from Sweetwater High School. So it's really filling a need for the community. And coming up in November, we have 2 events that the museum has every year. We celebrate Veterans Day with a fun run, a 5K fun run for the WASP. And that is the Saturday before Veterans Day. And then, of course, next May, which will be May 24th, 2014, we will have our homecoming.
Annual homecoming.
Exactly, 2014. And every year the WASP that come say, I can hardly wait, I'm going to be here next year. And hopefully they all will, but you know, age and distance takes a toll.
Because this week 2 have died. I
Yes,
mean, this past week
I have gotten
died.
obituaries for this week for 2 WASP who we have lost just this last week.
But we also have a resident WASP that lives
in Luders. Yes. Mary Alice Vandeventer, we call her our house WASP. And whenever we have a function, if it fits in her schedule, Mary Alice comes to the museum.
And she is an elegant, beautiful woman who is a retired librarian. Am I telling this
teacher.
right?
She taught right. And she may have been a librarian, but she was honored 5 years ago by the city of Luders, and
which is a little tiny hole in the wall, and this tells you that these WASP came from the big cities like Philadelphia, from the coastal area, from the tiny little farm communities.
And Mary Alice learned to fly when she was 15 because her father owned a ranch in New Mexico, and aircraft were not expensive. Aviation fuel at that time was just a step above kerosene.
Because they were put together with wire.
Exactly, they were wood and canvas.
Slats.
And Mary Alice learned to fly so that she could fly her father to his ranch in New Mexico. And her mother and father, when she applied, drove her to the museum, and she was in college but was a few months short of her 18th birthday, and they sent her home and said, come back when you're 18. She went back, finished that year of college, and came back and applied and was accepted and graduated, and then went on from there. But her students, she was one of those whose story was sort of lost except for her family, because when she was honored, her students said, you know, I had Miss Van Deventer as a teacher, and I had no idea that she was a WASP. And
because they didn't talk about it.
They didn't.
They thought there was something to be ashamed of when they had to hitchhike home.
And a lot of kids of WASP, when you talk to them, they go, you know, I didn't think my mother was anything special, because I thought everyone's mother could fly an airplane. I thought everyone's mother had done all these accomplishments. I thought everyone's mother was asked to speak at events, or I thought everyone's mother had written a book. And they are very unassuming women,
but confident
and so proud of their accomplishments. That it is such a treat to be able to tell their story. I took my granddaughter, when I first started doing volunteer work at the museum, right after we had moved to Sweetwater. I took my youngest granddaughter, she must have been about 8, and I told her the WASP story. We looked at all the exhibits, and the museum was not packed with exhibits like it is now. And as we were walking out to get in the car, she looked up at me and she said, you know, I can do anything I want to do, can't I? And that is what we want to convey, not just to girls, but to girls and boys, not just to adolescents, but
to
young
all,
Americans, to all of us. It's never too late to do, if you work hard enough and set your mind.
But one of the WASP came back and started an air training, pilot training service, and helped build an airport.
Exactly.
And I mean, you just got stories and stories.
Exactly. There was a WASP who died. She was from Wisconsin, and she died. And for her memorial service, they closed the airport, and her funeral procession went up and down the 2 main runways of that airport, then through the terminal, and her memorial service was held in the lobby of the airport terminal. I mean, they just
have
played
made a
such
difference in their
rich history.
See, didn't I tell you what a wonderful, wonderful program and series we were going to have? It's been such a pleasure to have Carol here and tell the history of the WASP Museum. And let me encourage you, anytime you're running up and down the interstate, to stop at the WASP Museum, but be sure and look it up on the web before you go, so you'll know the hours, and you can find the phone numbers and maybe even make an appointment. And Carol is really good about having some special people there to visit with you when you come by. And I want to thank Carol for being here and for her enthusiasm and her excitement about this museum. This is part of us. This is part of our roots and part of our history, and it is so important that we keep it alive. And thank you and your board, and we might say that this is an incorporated board, and contributions will help it keep going.
Exactly.
And are certainly going to be welcome as you go into this building program that you're in. We'll see you next Sunday with another program. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for joining us for News West 9's West Texas View with Johnny Lou Avery. This has been a public affairs presentation of KWAB-TV and KWES-TV.